I'm considering the topic, living through your storms. I looked at it in another video with you and talked about that we need to get ready. But now I want to go a step further from that. Our passage of scripture that I referred to and will in a moment again is Psalm 55. It's a story or a prayer that David made in the midst of a conflict he went through when his son led a revolt against him. His son wanted the kingdom, the throne, the power, and probably the death of his father. Pretty rough thing to go through. And David was hurting inside very deeply. He was going through a storm. Turmoil, anxiety, uncertainty. Where will this end? And you can imagine the personal feelings he must have had that it was his son, of all people, who was out to destroy him. How do you face a storm you cannot control? That's the issue that I think sometimes we struggle with. There are a lot of things that hit us in life, and because of our experience, our background, our strengths, our resources, we feel that we can more or less handle it. We've got reactions or responses that we've put in place, and we've gone through it before, and so while we're maybe a little uptight, we'll make it. We'll survive it somehow. But sometimes the storm hits that really you haven't got a clue what to do. You're not sure you can make it. The fear is that everything will be lost. And so the reactions to it begin to build up. Hurt. Why me? This hurts inside as well as outside. It's affecting my spirituality, my emotional stability. It's affecting me physically. And from hurt, it can go to deep fear. There's something about fear that it stays with you all the time. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you're dominated by this sense of dread. And a thing about fear that I find it particularly, it's not good, is that it often leads to anger. Often when you run into people who are in a rage, at the root of it is a fear, an anxiety they cannot control. And so they direct that frustration and fear into anger at someone or something. If you're in a storm and you're really afraid, it's really possible you'll attack your loved ones. You'll turn on the people who are the closest to you because you don't know what to do with your feelings anymore. And then there can become a deep settled distrust. You don't believe in life anymore. You begin to doubt God, and hopelessness prevails, and that can turn into bitterness. Not good at all. If we go through storms that really rip us to shreds, we can go through life as very broken people. And then we're always looking for some means, some way of getting control back. And life is not easily controlled. So David, what was he feeling? I'm reading from Psalm 55, and it's the first 3 verses. This is rather dark. This is the beginning of his psalm, and there's more to it. But just thinking about going through a storm and what your first reaction needs to be of control of yourself. Hear what he says. Give ear to my prayer, O God, and do not hide yourself from my supplication. Give heed to me and answer me. I am restless in my complaint and am surely distracted because of the voice of the enemy, because of the pressure of the wicked, for they bring down trouble upon me, and in anger they bear a grudge against me. He's really discouraged, isn't he? He's praying, he's seeking God, but it's with the context of being restless in his complaint. He's distracted in his mind. He says his enemies are all around him. They're speaking against him. They put pressure on him. They're bringing trouble upon him, and their anger is coming from a deep grudge. So he prays from a place of aloneness. He doesn't talk about others being around him. It's like, God, it's only you. And where are you? Don't hide from me. I need you. I need you desperately. I sense this as a prayer of desperation, one that's made with no relief in sight. When you're in the middle of a storm, it's hard to see the edge of it. You feel like you're totally surrounded, and it will go on forever and forever. You're not sure which way it's going because the wind goes in a circle. So what direction in general is the storm going? You're not sure which way to go, to run or to face it. But there is something that will help you survive, and that is controlling yourself. Controlling your own mind, your own emotions, your own spirit. When you get the right attitude, when you put yourself into check, there's a chance so much better that you can do something as opposed to being done in by the storm. So forget about fighting the storm, outrunning the storm, beating the storm, controlling it. You can't. Deal with yourself. And may I suggest several things? Number one, don't react. Reactions are something that we do on the spur of the moment without thought and emotionally driven. Don't react. Respond. Measure what you're facing and determine how best to handle it. Number two, accept reality. When you're in a storm, don't deny it. There's no point in saying, well, this isn't real. It's no big deal. It's not going to affect me. It may do all that in a negative way. Just accept the reality. I'm in a storm. I haven't a clue what to do, but I'm going to get through this. And I will with God's help. Stop blaming and attacking others. Don't look for someone to pin the blame on them. It's all their fault. If this hadn't happened, they hadn't done that, I wouldn't be facing this. That's not going to resolve anything. It's just going to make you angry. Also, cut out self-pity. It's happened to other people too. It's been happening to you before. This is life. It can be rough and it can be cruel. And run to God, not from God. As a pastor, I've never understood why it is that those who are not Christians, when they get in deep trouble, often run to God and to the church, while Christians tend to run from the church and from God. Hey, let's get this right. We are the people of God. So when you're in a storm, get your focus on Him and set your compass by Him. God is working even in storms. That's why David says, all my enemies are against me, their anger, their voice, their pressures. And God, I can't even see you right now. Don't hide yourself from me. But he says, give ear to my prayer, O God. Hear me. And he will. So David was in a mess. And right now we're going through some pretty rough times in our country, our culture, and in our lives. But David survived it with God's help. And so shall we. And then one day we'll wake up and the storm has gone on. It's a new day. We'll have better strength. We'll have a wiser mind and better character after we've gone through our storm. God will use it to make something out of us. Not necessarily give us better things than before, but he'll make us a better person than before. Scars are wounds that have healed. If you've been under attack and somebody's wounded you, remember that when you heal, you'll have a scar, but it's not a wound anymore. Don't keep picking at wounds. Let them heal so that you can move on. Even Jesus did that. He was wounded on the cross, and he still bears the scar, but he's now living in a resurrected body with a scar on it of the cross he bore for us. Take life as it comes. Move ahead in it. Trust God. And remember, he will bring you through, even if there's a scar at the end of it.